What up, watch peeps? I held out for a bit on checking out the various AliExpress brand watches, and maybe that was a mistake. When I first picked up this San Martin vintage diver, I unboxed it a few weeks back if you want to check that video out. But I was so impressed, I decided to give an Addy's Dive Tuna a try. Both are very impressive watches, and I don't just mean for the money. I think they hold their weight against watches costing even twice as much. Now I'll get a review up of that Addy's Tuna soon, but in the meantime, let's check out the San Martin 6200. I'm Pete, and we are Chillin' with Watches. Wrist check. Threw on the CWC G10. This is the GS model. Fantastic little watches if you never tried one. Haven't had this on for a while. But let's take a look at this San Martin. Now they call this model, it has a reference number 6200, but I think they call it the Water Ghost. Whatever. And you know, this packaging that San Martin comes in, I feel like Addy's Dive and Steeldive all have the same boxes. But inside you'll find, it's basically a signed, dated and stamped warranty card. You know, instruction booklet that I'll never look at. But you get a bunch of stuff. There is a really nice Seatbelt Natos and a good color choice to go with a gilt watch. I have the extra link and extra spring bars here. And all these tools. There's basically a spring bar tool, and then they give you 2 screwdrivers. I wasn't sure why at first, but that is because this has bracelet links where there's screw heads on both sides. So you kind of have to hold one while you unscrew the other side. And this little thing that I wasn't sure, this is actually Loctite, I found out from a viewer. So they actually give you Loctite to seal up whatever links you unscrew and take out after setting the bracelet size. A little pad in between the watch to keep the kind of case back from scratching up on the clasp, and it even had a hang tag. But let's take a look at this watch. It's a really fantastic dial. Now this is a 38mm watch, 39 at the bezel. Colors, just this one, although it is available with a sterile dial, and they are priced at $234 on AliEx. First thing that struck me on this one is I've never seen an NH35 watch this thin before. I don't know how they did it. I have to open it up and find out. Haven't done that, but maybe I will, maybe I won't. I love the size of this. I love the thinness. 38 maybe wears a little larger than that, but definitely smaller than a 40. The bezel action on it is fantastic. It's really precise and solid feeling. And like once you click, you know, like any of them, I feel like you have to click and you maybe get play, but then it's just rock solid after that. No movement, not vertically or horizontally. Alignment is fantastic. I got it on the first try. Has just a really nice kind of coin edge with a real coarse grain to it that might even be bead blasted in between, but the grip is fantastic on it. Now it has a matte printed dial. Take a closer look there. Printed with like this kind of creamy C3 colored Lume, which I really like. Just a basic standard Submariner kind of dial layout. But now see that matte dial, it has this ceramic bezel. That matte dial may be at contrast with the ceramic bezel, as those two don't quite go together. Aluminum bezel might have looked really cool on here. It doesn't bother me so much, but I know that is an issue for some people. But I think it's a really nice gilt dial. Vintage sub markers, gilt hands. I love that huge lollipop seconds hand. That thing is fantastic. Just Mercedes hands, again, keeping with the style. Looking at the crystal, it is, I guess it's technically a hi-hat crystal, but it's a very low hi-hat. It doesn't stick up very far and has a very slight dome to it. Really nice sapphire crystal. And while we're here looking at the case shape, it's almost flat, has very slight turn down to the lugs, short lug to lug, so it's still kind of manages to stay on the top part of your wrist without any kind of hangover or anything like that. Turning around on the crown side, has a really nice, almost 7mm crown. It is signed. Let's see if I can zoom in here. With that little shark logo. If you can see out there, but you can also see from this view the brushing on the case. It's just really nice. The transitions to those polished chamfers. Again, back to brushed on top. Just really impressive for $230 some. Coin edge crown, matching the style of the bezel. And case back wise, you just get a basic standard Submariner Rolex style case back. Very plain, very fine, but again, it's a thin case back, not much hanging out the bottom there at all. Going into the bracelet, we have solid end links. They are male end links, but they do have a pretty sharp turn down to them, kind of to match the contour of the case. You'll see these are standard oyster style links with faux rivets that are actually screws. Some of the ones on the end there, you'll see they have screw heads at the top end, corresponding ones on the side. So you hold one, unscrew the other, and that's how you separate it. And now they have fixed something in this version. This bottom, I guess, link does no longer has rivets. It used to have rivets and you couldn't make use of all the micro adjusts in the clasp because they would hit. So they got rid of the rivets on that bottom one, so now you can get all the way in to the 4th setting on the micro adjust, as you see I am here. But you know, I didn't have any real trouble. Helson uses the same style where you got to screw both sides. Real easy to set. The screws themselves were thick enough, solid enough. I had no problem. Didn't feel like I was going to strip one or anything like that. Has a really nice milled out clasp. Tapers from 20 down to 16 at the clasp. And a very minimalist, simple clasp. The one I really like. Laser engraved with the San Martin logo. All really nicely done. Trying to show you the engraving on the ceramic bezel and how nice and precise that is. It's really well done, if you can see that there. Really crisp, sharp corners on all the markers. And a Lume pip at 12 o'clock. Really cool. So let's throw this on the Timegrapher. I know that is something that I had criticized San Martin of before in one of their like $70 pilot watches. It really wasn't running all that well. Probably technically within spec, but not great. So let's throw this on the Timegrapher and see how it's doing. Whatever issues that previous San Martin I had with accuracy, this one has no such problems. Basically running at zeros. Dead on. Eat your heart out, Rolex. 256 amplitude. Again, I'd probably put 10, 15 winds on it. That could probably be higher if it was fully wound. Hardly any beat error, but I mean, that is super impressive accuracy for a watch that's $230. That is super impressive accuracy at any price range. Let's go over the dimensions. As I mentioned earlier, it is a 38mm case, 39mm at the bezel. It is only 45.6mm lug to lug, so nice and compact. 12.8mm thick, really well done there, and a 20mm lug width. That tapers down to 16 at the bracelet. Going over some of the other specs, it does have a very nice kind of domed sapphire crystal. I believe this is using C3 Superluminova. It runs a Seiko NH35 movement and has 200 meters of water resistance. And on the bracelet size for my 7¼ inch wrist, it came in at 133 grams. Speaking of which, let's see how it wears on wrist. And here's how it wears on my 7¼ inch wrist. You can see that is a nice little compact dive watch. Like I said, mostly flat case, slight turn down on the lugs. Just enough that, I mean, my wrist at 7¼ has plenty more shelf on top, but you could even go smaller. Just enough that it won't hang out and creating space underneath. I think it wears really well. Let's take a look at it side by side, some other watches. Firstly, here is, well, this is an Invicta 8926 Pro Diver mod, 40mm diver, kind of very similar with crown guards. And you can see it's a pretty similar wear. As I said, it's a 38, but it maybe wears a little bigger. I would say it wears more like a 39, so close to this, but not quite the same. Much thinner. And next to the 41, going up a millimeter, the 41mm Cincinnati Divers Edition. Now here I think you can see the difference starts to pull away. This has a larger dial. Not as much rehaut inside. More dial space. Bezels are about the same, although this one is bigger. Now the Cincinnati Diver is running a SW200 and is a thicker watch. And going up 1 more millimeter to the Seiko SKX at about 42.5. Here you can see these both have similar sized dial openings. A larger bezel on the SKX and a bulkier case make it wear slightly larger. And it is thicker, of course. Bonus, I got the 40mm Willbrook standing here. Now this is the quartz Willbrook, so it will be thinner. Again, pretty similar wears, larger dial opening on the Willbrook. But as you can see, this thing wears almost as thin as a quartz. Really nice. Alright, last thing. Let's check out the Lume.
Peep the Lume.
And there you go. The Lume on this thing is bombastic. Definitely looks like a C3 kind of Lume. That greenish color, but it is plenty bright. Look at that huge second hand lollipop. Glowing really bright. The Lume pip. All around, great Lume, great little package. What a great little watch. There's an affiliate link in the description if anyone is interested. I'm definitely going to be checking out more of these AliEx brand watches. I'll have to get a Steeldive in, maybe a Willard or something. I feel like these, and by these I mean San Martin, Addy's Dive, Steeldive, or maybe all made in the same factory, as they all have the same packaging. Either way, these guys are stepping up their game and making some really cool watches. Alright, before I let you go, sneaker check. Just wear my Jordan 1 lows, and that's it. I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.